If you're not sure how to build actual long-term strong relationships with your freelance writing clients, my guess is you're continuing to make these few mistakes over and over again. This is part two. I will put a little note for part one in there. We'll put it right here as a card. But we're going to go through the four top things that you're probably messing up. I'm Mandy Ellis. I'm a six-figure freelance writer, and I've helped other writers build high-earning businesses they adore without the burnout, stress, or overwhelm. So we're going to roll right into it. And like I said, if you haven't watched part one, I will put a card in, and then we're going to get into this part that's part two. Number four here, you need to onboard like a pro. This starts the expectations and what your client thinks about working from you from the very beginning. So for me, I like to use processes and systems for onboarding, and I like to use Dubsado. I have a video right here of my walkthrough of how I use Dubsado, but I really want you to understand that onboarding is all of the different things. So once someone responds to an LOI or you get an inbound lead, we're going to get on a call, and that call is part of the onboarding experience. We need to ask the right questions. We need to make sure that we're listening to our clients. And if you're like, well, how do I do that? If you grab my free seasoned veteran cheat sheet, mandyellis.com/cheat sheet, I give you a whole bunch of things that you need to know about client calls, including the questions to ask on those client calls, and to make sure you're getting the right clients to reach out to you to talk about projects. I give you the questions to answer in your LinkedIn profile and website. So if you go to mandyellis.com/cheat sheet, you can grab that. But when you're onboarding on these calls, asking these questions makes sure that you're putting the right people into your client log, right? Your client list. So you are onboarding with the right questions on the call, listening to your clients, making sure that you're getting, a really good idea of project scope, timeline, budget, all those good things. And you're also then sending them off that call with a next step. So that next step is you're going to follow up with them, or they're going to get back to you about budget or something. But what we really want to do is go with proposal, contract, invoice. And I set this up in Dubsado, Dubsado. Dubsado helps you manage all your client stuff, book client calls, have all your to-dos in one place. You also have all your proposals, contracts, and invoices in one area. So in here, I have my proposal set up so that it's also connected to the contract and then connected to the upfront invoice. None of these things are a surprise. All of these things have been talked about on the initial client call. So when I'm onboarding, I'm then like prepping them for the next phase. Hey, the next phase is I send you a proposal. If you're okay with the proposal, it moves you over to the contract, sign the contract, and then you'll do the 50% upfront invoice. And that 50% upfront invoice can either be 50% of the project, or it could be 50% of the first month if it's a retainer. So we have this very clear mapped out process that they feel like is pro. It's designed well, it looks good, it's put in all these different places that they care about. Like, hey, I need a kind of a roundup of what we talked about. That's the proposal. I need some kind of idea of what this is going to cost. That's the proposal. And then how are we going to work together? What does that look like? How do I pay you? What are the rights? How does that work? That's the contract. And then the upfront invoice is like, hey, if you're okay with the proposal, you just move right on to the invoice and you get paid a lot quicker. So this onboarding experience, especially for me, when I switched to Dubsado, my clients complimented that a bunch because it's going through Dubsado for client calls, it's going through Dubsado for proposal, contracts, and then all invoices. I can keep all my notes in one place, so it's really easy for me to find things if I need to. And I just feel like for me, the Dubsado process helps me get contracts signed quicker, helps me get more upfront payments done quicker, and it just looks really good. So we want to make sure that we're onboarding from the time we get on a call with someone. Basically, someone answers or reaches out to us, and we're onboarding them through the call. We're setting expectations. We're letting them know about next steps. We're telling them how the process works when they partner with us or when they collaborate with us or work with us. And then they're getting the proposal, contract, invoice to kind of seal the deal and get them onboarded. So I will put those videos in here for how I use Dubsado. But I think for me, I don't care what tool you use as long as you have this really good onboarding process, because it builds the relationship on a very good, solid foundation from the call to them already basically signing the check to give you that upfront payment. Number three here. Number three. Now, upsells are only in a certain place. So for me, I'm not trying to upsell on an initial client call unless someone is piqued in their curiosity for a different type of thing. I'm not trying to say like, "Oh, you should just do this." I'm having a conversation with them on a call, and then I'm saying, okay, they kind of mentioned they're struggling with content strategy, or they kind of mentioned they're really struggling with case studies." Then I will kind of upsell what that looks like working with me, how many, what the content strategy packages look like, or what's a good kind of time frame for doing case studies, or what we should kind of look at. So I don't like to upsell. I think this is a mistake. A lot of people try to get on a client call and they just try to upsell to make it a long-term thing. I like to make sure I am filtering who I reach out to with my LOIs, so I already know it's more likely for them to be an ongoing project. It's way more likely from what they're publishing and what they're doing that it's ongoing versus getting on a call and being surprised about whatever they're doing and then being like, how can I upsell them to a package or something else? I think listening to them really gives you a better opportunity to say, "Hey, I noticed you were kind of confused about brand strategy. I have a couple of packages we can talk about." Or you say, "Hey, I noticed that you were kind of leaning towards case studies as maybe an add-on. Let me tell you about how that service would work, when we partner." That I think is a good way to do it because you've listened to them and then you're responding. I don't think it's a good idea to just get on there and be like, "You need this." That always has backfired for me, to get on a call and tell someone like, "I noticed you don't have this. You should do it." That just doesn't work. I think listening to someone and then responding really works well, and that gives you a good upsell opportunity. Now, the other thing too is when you're thinking about that for your long term relationship, the more you build that relationship with your client, the more trust they have. And then if you suggest, "Hey, I know we've been working on these blog posts for 6 months, but I really think XYZ company that worked with you would make a great case study. Would you want me to reach out to them, or would you, be interested in doing that?" I think building that trust makes it really easy to then suggest types of content for them to do because they trust you, they like your work, and they've kind of worked with you long enough. So I don't think the focus for long-term relationships should be an upsell. I think the focus should be listening and responding, and then kind of looking for holes as you work for them and maybe suggesting things along the way. If you have packages for certain projects like blog posts or content strategy or brand strategy, then I would, or brand messaging or messaging and positioning, then I would kind of see if there's an opening in terms of like what they're talking about and what they're struggling with there. But really be careful about the upsell. Like the long-term client isn't that you keep extending the contract because you're upselling. That's not how it works. You're usually on a call with a client who already has ongoing needs. They're already putting money into content marketing or content strategy, or any types of things that they're already creating, right? And then you're just kind of going with that and offering other opportunities. It's not something where you get on a call and then you keep extending the contract by just suggesting things. Like those things usually aren't it. You can't upsell a red light client. Like you can't have someone who is just like, "This is just extra money." You have to have someone with a budget and a goals and a focus. If they have goals, it's easier for you to address that with different types of content. So really be careful with the upsell, but really build that relationship, listen and respond to do that. Number two. So if you are, for like, let's say you've been freelancing for 2 to 5 years, sometimes I would say at least half the time, if not more, I am sussing someone out via email before I get on a call. So I did a calendar audit a long time ago and I realized I kept getting on all these calls that led nowhere. And I realized that that was part of not sussing them out via email. And I would just get on a call. Like I wouldn't ask any questions. I'd be like, "Let's just get on a call." And that works for a while when you're kind of understanding how to do a call and you're getting more information and you're learning about your ideal clients. But after a while, you start realizing you're getting on all these calls and they're not converting. So if you've been doing this for a while, I think you should ask a few questions first in the email. So I like to ask, what's the project? Tell me about the project. What's your budget? What's the timeline? Can you send me any examples? And then what else do you have in the pipeline? Do you have any other projects in the pipeline coming up? And I think that is really good for um, I think that's really good for getting on calls with the right kinds of people who can answer those questions versus people that are just like, "I just need a case study," or "I just need a blog post," and there's no other work. Like they don't know why they need it or how it helps. They're just like, "I should just do this." So you really want to, if you have some experience, suss them out via email first. What I also have too is like a one-page little web page where people can go to kind of see brand values and see some project types and schedule something on my calendar. But I think when you're kind of learning this process, the best thing to do is be upfront so that you're transparent about like, hey, I'm serious about work. I'm not here to like just get on a call just to chat through some random shit. I really want to be, direct with you, but also kind. And I need you to answer these questions first. So if you've realized you're getting on too many calls, or you realize that you're like talking to the wrong kinds of people, really suss them out via email first, because you will notice that if you ask a handful of questions: what's the project, what's your budget, what's your timeline, and can you send me examples, that will clear out a lot of people. So I think that kind of helps you get on calls with the right people, but also learn the look of who your ideal client is based on who responds and moves forward and who doesn't. Number one, this is something that gets missed all the time. This is something that has brought me work year after year after year. You need to send end of year thank you notes. I know that this is a rare thing where you send physical stuff. So, what I have done is I will get a cool card, like a pack of cards from Etsy with like a funny animal pun about the holidays on them, because that's just like my thing. Pick something that feels like you, but they're like $8, and you go on there and you grab these cards and you get however many clients you have. And then I get a bubble mailer, like the bubble mailer envelope, and I will get some candy or some things that you can only find in Texas. And I will make like a little gift bag. So I will send a gift bag and I will write a handwritten note in that little card. So inside the bubble mailer, when someone opens it up, they have a gift bag that they pull out. It has a handwritten card in it from me that says like, I so loved working with you this year on XYZ project. I had really had fun doing this. Thank you for the feedback, and but some nice things about working with them. And then there's like some candy in there that's only from Texas, right? Things that they can only get or only from Austin, that they know that's from Mandy, right? Besides the card. So for me, I get work every year. Every time I do that, every time I send, I mail them, right? You mail them out. I think that you can make this budget friendly ways to get work. So if you send these thank you cards to your top clients, you don't have to send them to all of them, but maybe, your top 5 or your top 7 or 10 clients, depending on how many clients you have. I would send them out because every single time I've done it, I end up getting work. They remember you, or they really like the gift that you sent, or they like the candy, or they like the handwritten note, which is very rare these days. I think it's really good when you can kind of send something to them that shows you care about working together, you've really enjoyed it, and it's something that's personal. That really builds a relationship. It builds a memory. It builds a response, and it's also a good way to get referrals. So, like, let's say your client gets the bag and they're like, "Hey, I don't have work, but so and so does." It's a really good way that people miss building these long-term relationships, not just with one client, but long-term relationships for potential referrals, or things they've enjoyed doing. It really makes a good personal impact. So pick your top, let's say 3, 5, 7, 10 clients. You can do this budget friendly. The bubble mailers you can get on Amazon. You can get cheap gift bags on Amazon that still look good and that are high quality. And then you just pick up, a little bit of candy. Like, let's say you spend $10 on candy per person, and then you buy the cards that are, $8 to $20 on Etsy. And it's really, a budget friendly way to get a bunch of work. So I think that's something that people miss all the time with long term relationships. It's really that, like, it's a gratitude piece, but it's also a really good personal way to say thank you to someone with a handwritten note. My handwriting is awful and I still send them. I try to work on my handwriting, but I think those personal touches make a huge difference. It makes an impact on your clients who often don't get those kinds of gifts from their freelancers or from anyone. And they definitely don't get that many handwritten notes. So it helps you stand out. It helps you build that relationship and continue getting work, but it also helps you get more referrals. So I hope when you're watching this, whenever you are, if you're getting close to the end of the year, I really want you to think about sending those things out. Those gifts are really important. You can also do like a organized gift basket, but for me, I feel like there's a really good personal touch with each element. So you could get like a fun bubble mailer. Like, there was one that I had that was like green with pineapples on it, because it was just like fun. It just stood out. So I picked that. And then inside I picked like a really fun, colorful gift bag with really nice tissue paper in it. And then I picked these fun cards. Like, each element really, really, I think, makes a difference. So have fun with that. Do that this year, and it'll really help you get more work. I think it's really important for building those long-term relationships. So I'm guessing you probably haven't done that, or you've sent some kind of email instead of a personalized gift. You can always send it to someone's office too, or a PO box or something. You don't have to send it to their home address. I think these are really good ways to make an impact. So I hope that this has been helpful. We've had these two parters here where we've talked about all these ways to build long-term client relationships that most people miss. And I think they're really critical to not only getting ongoing work, but building relationships and understanding your clients, your diamond clients at a deeper level. So I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you next time.